Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 17th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see our system that's swinging through the area still as we speak. Brought some thunderstorm activity across British Columbia, Washington coast, just north of Seattle, convergent zone activity, and some snow for the higher terrain here as well. And this is ushering in cooler air mass. Frontal system is going to be pushing down and off to the south and east as we go through the day today. And then you can already see the clouds from this huge plume of moisture known as an atmospheric river out across the Pacific Ocean. That's going to be burrowing into western British Columbia, including portions of western Washington at times, and then eventually bringing a frontal system down across Pacific Northwest. And we'll take a look at the extended forecast as always as we go through the video this morning. So scrolling back and forth here, you can see all that cold air aloft here with popcorn cumulus as we went through the day yesterday. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on here for the lightning flashes. And you can see we had quite a few lightning strikes on the Washington coast yesterday, and that moved inland here. The convergent zone activity up towards Everett, across the Puget Sound, north of Seattle, and then that came to pretty much an end here as we went through the overnight hours. But as we went through this morning, there was a few lightning strikes on the Oregon coast there, and you can see that thunderstorm just off to the south and east of Astoria, probably getting towards the higher terrain of the coastal range there for Oregon. And then we go to where we are right now, and you can see that frontal system continuing to swing down off to the southeast. Some thunderstorms there across northeast Nevada, but you see that cloud shield approaching there out over the Pacific Ocean. That is the atmospheric river on its way, bringing some big precipitation amounts with it. We'll go over that in some detail here as well. And I also want to point something out. There's going to be a frontal system that could be a bit vigorous here as we go towards the end of the weekend that could be moving across western Washington. We're going to look at that in some detail as well, so you want to stick around for that. Taking a look here at SeaTac yesterday, 61 degrees. 60 is the average high for this time of year, 0.04 of an inch of rain. And I noticed this, and it brought back some memories. I was working in a warehouse in downtown Seattle, 2003, during that day, over 5 inches of rain. Just an incredible amount, the rainiest day in SeaTac history. So just thought I'd point that out. Some of you might remember that. Looking at the weather outlook here, Spokane, you'd see that Sunday. When we get to Sunday, we talk about the breezy with rain, even eastern portions here. But we're going to warm back up a little bit here because for eastern Washington and Oregon especially, you're going to be on the south side of that atmospheric river where, it warms up a bit. It's not a very cold air mass when you're bringing that atmospheric river into the Pacific Northwest, especially on the south side of it. And then you can kind of see the frontal system will swing through here, and maybe we'll bring a little bit of mountain snow back there, breezy with some showers. And this is Pendleton, Oregon, as this frontal system straight down across the region here, mainly above 3,500 feet. We are seeing some snowfall, but don't get used to it. We're going to warm back up here as we go through the weekend. Now, I selected this station off to the east of Lake Stevens. You can see Everett be here. There's the Seattle Metro. And if you want one of these stations, click on that link down below to save 10% off. You can see it was detecting lightning. If you click on that and you go ahead and scroll all the way back through yesterday afternoon and evening, you can see it did pick up some of those lightning strikes there. It's very fun to watch that on this weather station when you get weather rolling in here. And yeah, it does all kinds of stuff, stores all the data for you in the cloud. Looks like it's calm winds out there right now. And Matthew Fab out there, put a nice tweet together here talking about White Pass Summit. You can see the snow falling, or the snow that fell last night. There's Highway 2, and then we can scroll back and we can kind of see Paradise here. Got some snowfall there yesterday. So nice early season stuff there. And Matthew Fab, give him a follow there on Twitter. Now, take a look at the atmospheric river scale. I just want to keep pointing this out here. The atmospheric rivers are not something meant to be feared. They can be beneficial, they can be weak, and it doesn't mean some huge flooding scenario is coming for you necessarily. It's based on duration and integrated vapor transport over any given area. So if we take a look at the GFS coming right now, you can see that atmospheric river out over the Pacific Ocean, slamming into western BC, strong low pressure center moving in towards Haida Gwaii and southeast Alaska, and then that atmospheric river kind of hangs out for a bit, and then eventually a frontal system will swing across the area. And you can kind of see this development of this low pressure center here. That could bring some windy conditions here across western Washington, western Oregon, southwest British Columbia, as well as that moves through. Late breaking waves can be kind of sneaky, and they can bring some strong winds with them here. And you're probably not hearing much about that, but we'll go over that in some detail here, especially towards the end of the video. And then you see that frontal system moving through on this GFS model. This is hot off the press as that low pressure center is deepening as it's making landfall. Now, again, with the atmospheric rivers, I want to show you this. This is our atmospheric river we're dealing with here. You can see it moving into western BC, but these are all over the planet, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, all over Earth. at any given time. It's not something meant to be feared. It's just a scientific descriptor for a certain event based on integrated vapor transport and duration here. So do not be afraid by the term atmospheric river. They can be beneficial, especially in the early seasons. We put an end to the fire danger and things like that as well. So if we take a look at the North American model, high resolution, it drives me nuts because they do have the data for this across Western Canada and Northern Vancouver Island, but they cut it off here for some reason. But anyway, you can see the plume of moisture moving in here as we go through Friday night and on into Saturday morning. Look at that fire hose, going to point it right there at Vancouver Island. Some pretty big precipitation amounts showing up here. I'll show you more on that here in a moment. But looking at composite reflectivity, you can see the shower activity kind of continuing on through the late morning, but then quickly moving off to the south and east, the frontal system, and then you can see the atmospheric river starting to spread precipitation, especially across Vancouver Island, Washington coast. It does clip Seattle for a little bit here, but we're going to be right on the southern edge of that across a lot of western Washington, trying to see how fast that can move south. But the Cascades and the Olympic Mountains are getting some decent precipitation amounts as well. And you can see I'm scrolling all the way through Saturday afternoon, and it doesn't move too much. So that means bigger totals for Vancouver Island and southwest BC. If we take a look at that total precipitation over the next 60 hours, you can really see it just pile up here across Vancouver Island. So you got to watch out for some flooding potential with that, and the Olympic Mountains picking up some decent amounts, and the Northern Cascades. But look at Seattle and Portland, much less here. Is it going to be rain shadowed for some areas, especially across the Central Sound, at least initially before that frontal system starts moving south. And now I'm going to show you what I mean here. So you can see here's the same model here, but they cut that data out. I wish they would just include that. I actually wrote to the team here today, seeing if they could go ahead and do that. But yeah, one of my little pet peeves there. Now, taking a look here at the European model, we're going to talk about the windy potential here across western Washington, southwest BC, and some of western Oregon. So here we go. Atmospheric river, strong low into southeast Alaska. That has good model agreement there. And then as this frontal system is draped across Pacific Northwest, you can see that low develop right there, and as it moves into central British Columbia, that could cast a fairly decent pressure gradient. Nice pressure rise could bring some windy conditions there, so we're watching that one. I'll show you more on that here in a moment. If we take a look at the GFS version of that and the ensemble members, again, strong low pressure into Haida Gwaii, and then we develop that late breaking wave here, but you can see it's a little bit lesser here on the GFS. So taking a look at the European as of last night, this is 100-meter wind speed. There goes that deep low in towards Haida Gwaii there. And then you can see the winds pick up, northwest interior, Washington coast, Vancouver Island. And it could be some blustery conditions across some of the Puget Sound here as well. And then you'll see this frontal system just kind of draped right across Vancouver Island, just touching the northwest tip of Washington. Look at that northwest flow versus the southwest flow at the surface here, right off the coastline here. Nice frontal boundary. And then you can see the development of that wave here. And you can see it pick up the winds at the last second. So if this thing doesn't develop quite as advertised, these winds are going to be much less. But if it develops a little bit more, you could really see a bluster out of this thing for the Washington, Oregon coast, and some of the, excuse me, northwest interior, even some of the central sound, southwest BC, depending on how that system comes in. And then you see a decent westerly surge behind that, Strait of Juan de Fuca and some of the east slopes of the Cascades also. So we really got to watch that system coming in. You can kind of see how that wind really develops last second right on the Pacific Northwest here. Now, if we take a look at the 6-hour precipitation type, here we go, wrapping up the showers. Atmospheric river comes rolling in here. You see this plume just absolutely hammering British Columbia and some of Vancouver Island, but it is clipping the North Cascades and the Olympic Mountains, then kind of bounces back north again as that system develops here and spins into the Pacific Northwest. And that's when that windy system would be rolling through here if it does occur. So if we take a look at the European accumulated 10-meter max wind gusts, there's that initial system. Look at that southeast winds across, Whidbey Island, San Juan, southwest BC, Washington coast, Vancouver Island, and you can see Seattle, gusting 32 miles per hour there by Saturday morning, so might get your attention a little bit. But then watch that next system come in here. You can kind of see it goes 38 miles per hour for Seattle, but look at that, it jumped to 52 for Bellingham. You can kind of see the danger of that system, that late breaking wave there across the region. And if we take a look at the North American model, this is mainly going to be looking at that initial system here with the southeast winds here. But it also shows some pretty blustery conditions across Olympia, Tacoma as we go on in through Friday evening and Friday night. So kind of keep your wits about you for that. That could cause some nuisance power outages as well. It's gust to 50 miles per hour there for Bellingham. So if we look at Seattle, Tacoma, this is the initial system here, but then there's that late breaking wave. Look at the control run, 41 miles per hour. That could cause some issues with leaves still on trees right now and taking down some of the branches and whatnot in the trees that have been kind of hanging up there during the summer months. And look at that. A couple of these ensemble members have 50 mile per hour gusts, but you can also see that some of those ensemble members have much less, including almost very little wind at all, only in the teens and low 20s. So that is causing some concern, kind of a weatherman's woe there with these late breaking waves. And if we look at Quileute, there's the initial system here with that low up into southeast Alaska, but then look at the control run on that late breaking wave, 48 miles per hour, and some of them with higher, and then you can see some of them with virtually no wind at all. So kind of a nightmare scenario with these late breaking waves. Whidbey Island, same thing also. You can see some of these ensemble members not showing much, but some of them showing gusts in excess of 50 miles per hour. Bellingham, something similar there as well. Look at that. What is that? 53 miles per hour on the control run versus much less on some of these ensembles. And if we look at the GFS, this one is hot off the presses. This is about 2,500 feet up in the atmosphere. There goes that strong low atmospheric river. I sound like a broken record here. I apologize. But you can see that low pressure system developing right off the Washington coastline there and bringing some stronger winds with it. So we got to watch that one closely. We're going to be going over that in much more detail tomorrow. It's possible the models will take it away completely and not allow this thing to develop until it gets across British Columbia or Alberta. We'll see how that goes. So right now we're playing wait and see because we still have a little bit of time before that will become an issue. Taking a look at 500 millibars here, we're going to look a little bit off into the extended. There goes our upper level low here. Here we go with the classic atmospheric river setup with the ridging to the south and the troughing across the Gulf of Alaska and some of northwestern Canada. And then we bring that frontal system through. Then we drop down some energy off the Pacific Ocean here. So this might keep us active. As you can see, this thing quickly start to eject back up across the region here as well as another trough. The trough swings through the area. Now, daily 2-meter max temperatures, I'm going to show you this here coming up. As you can see, as we go through Saturday on the southern portion of that atmospheric river, you can see there's some low 70s, mid 70s showing up for the Willamette Valley, eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, before that frontal system finally swings through as we go on and through Monday. So you see things cool down quite a bit from Sunday to Monday here, especially eastern portions and the Willamette Valley, for example, as that frontal system comes down across the area. Now, taking a look at a comet viewing here, actually, some places might get a view of that tonight. You can see, you might see it through the peak in the clouds there, maybe the Washington coast. Not looking that great for the central sound here, but there's always the chance. Better chances east of the mountains there. And as we go on in through Friday, you can see the next cloud shield arrive. So it might be difficult viewing there for Friday night, but if you go across eastern Oregon or some of southern Oregon, you're going to have better chances. So, yeah. That's for the comet. Now, taking a look at 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, you can kind of see this above average across some of the Pacific Northwest. But look at that, kind of interesting here, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook as we go towards the end of the month. Kind of a below average signal here across a lot of the Pacific Northwest as well. We'll be monitoring that. 8 to 14 days shows something similar. We're starting to get out towards Halloween now, and then the 8 to 14 day precipitation. And also, I wanted to give this as a side note. I'm going to be doing the more recent El Nino, La Nina update coming up here. We do have new monthly data that goes on in through the extended forecast as well. So you can kind of see equal chances for the month of November, but we got that above average signal for precipitation for November 2024. But yeah, anyway, we'll be watching that potential for some wind coming up here. That late breaking wave, atmospheric river, you can clearly see is on its way. We'll break this all down again tomorrow. Hope you guys are having a good day otherwise, and I will talk to you guys later.